Here, all yours.
Uh, well, Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for sticking around. I know it's been a long day for all of you. My name is Rosario, and I'm going to be talking today about commercial security scanning on point of sales, potential workaround, and mitigation technique. Um, Before I jump into the subject, this is a research paper that I got involved a few years back, and just wanted to give you a quick background how I landed into this area. There was a time where PCI DSS was heavily targeted by cyber criminals, and we saw a lot of news around the world. Large companies were having these breaches where multiple credit card details were exposed, and this was costing millions of dollars to remediate. This was a waking call for companies, large sizes, to have and run incident response teams. So it is quite hot and it's still happening. Um, so yeah, that is a little bit of background. Also, with this paper, I want to give you the goal, what we're trying to do here. Uh, the goal was mainly to have or to give you a foundation and then to build from here. So we wanted to see and explore the network, how this POS works in a realistic world. What processes, what protocols, ports, getting to know the device that was hot in the market more, and mimic a real payment going out. And how this could be in a realistic world, how an attacker would actually be able to bypass this. Alrighty, so let's start. Today, I'm gonna have this is the overview of today. So we're gonna go talk about a quick introduction on PCI DSS. We're gonna go over worldwide cases, just to give you, again, a quick summary, a quick view on what happened there. We're gonna have a peek on the experimental network that we run our experimental testings. We're gonna get to know more our target. So the VX680, the terminal, which is provided by Verifone, my sponsor at the time. And also we're gonna go on the penetration system. So in here we subdivided into intrusive and non-intrusive attacks. So we're gonna go how we did it, what tools we use, what were the findings, and what direction we took after we gathered this information. At the end, we're gonna see, knowing all of this, how we can bypass the PCI DSS whilst complying, and what can we do about it. So, if you have a compromise, what can we do as customers, as people who use PCI DSS in our day-to-day life? So, put your hands up if you know what PCI DSS is. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of hands up. Nice. Okay, so I'm not going to spend time here then. We can skip it. Yes, PCI DSS, we find it in our day to day. Every time that we make a purchase, transactions, this is where, you're dealing with it. And every company that makes transaction or deals with payment transactions should be compliant. Otherwise, they lose the ability to make some payment transactions online or the hardware or any other possible ways. Um, Very quickly, just these are the PCI DSS standards. There are 6 goals and they have 12 requirements. As you can see from this image, there is some basics words, and sometimes they could be open to interpretation, which is quite scary because what it means, the meaning, the way that I could interpret some of this could be different than the way that you might interpret it. So this is a good start for us to understand what PCI DSS mean to us and how they are wording. Okay, so let's talk about some of those cases that we mentioned before. Yes, you've seen Home Depot. large retail in the States. You've seen TJ Maxx or TK Maxx, also a large retail in the United States. Both companies, very large companies in the United States, targeted and breached successfully, losing millions of credit card details and make this public. Unfortunately, even though one of these companies invested a lot of money in their security software, they were still got breached. So you know they lost customers, they lost sales, they reputation of the company got damaged. Again, investing in security software is not enough. You must have also your incident response team that should respond to it accurately to security alerts. But yeah, one of these company actually was delayed. The response was delayed to this alert. Hence, there were like 60 million credit card details exposed to the world. I stop here because this is our neighbor country. So they were heavily hit as well by a Romanian cyber criminal not too long ago. So basically, the attackers were quite adventurous here because they wanted to take that extra step, not just to get those credit card details with them, but they also wanted to start printing them into physical cards and then go into those ATMs and withdraw money. So they were hard, yes. And the last one, so not very recent, but the Warner Group, another very large PCI DSS attack. And it shows, again, even though we tighten those PCI standards, we are implementing them to our best understanding, these attacks are still happening, and most likely will continue happening. So this is a collaborative work, how we can remediate them. In the little graphic right there, you could see also the industries that are mostly attacked by them. Now, moving on into our specific case. So this is the network design that we elaborated, we deploy. We wanted to mimic, having all that information that we gathered before on previous cases, what we know, what happened in New Zealand, and how businesses work in this nowadays. We try to mimic just a simple local network, having services like ID, DNS, DHCP. We wanted to combine wire connections, wireless connections. We want to have the ability to move the device around. Just to give you, so areas of attacks from the attacker perspective, we have the wireless connections, we have the wire connection, but we also have the device itself. So the device itself is a big one for us because it was quite new. The testing server, it was a testing server that was sitting in our sponsors environment. So that was out of scope. But we were able to make transactions on our side, and those transactions will all communicate with the testing server of Verifone. Okay, let's get to know our target device. So our target device, any handheld device. If you're driving down the road, buying some veggies, fruits, this is a device that you will be handed off. It's a Verifone Terminal VX680. It works on 5G. It works on wireless connections. It prints their own receipts, colorful screen. And some of you might wonder, why this device, right? I mean, there's plenty of options that we could have chosen from. But based on the statistics of the net sponsor, this was the device most popular chosen by merchants when they are on the go. Because it gives the ability to, go anywhere, still being able to make transactions or receive payments. And it was, based on the popularity of the device. That's why we chose this device. Okay, so now we want to move on the non-intrusive attacks. If you remember in the beginning, we talked about we're going to subdivide this into the non-intrusive attacks and intrusive attacks. So non-intrusive attacks, we wanted to get to know the device more, footprinting, port scanning. We wanted to find, we wanted to run scans and find, hopefully, open ports for malicious attackers that can be exploited, that can give you access to the device. And through running those scans, what would you know? It's just getting to know the device more and also the network. The tools that we use, just narrowing down to those areas. So aircraft was chosen mostly to put to test one of the standards. If I don't remember wrong, there is a standard 2.1.1, which says in a wireless network, you should use good encryption. Good encryption. But what kind of encryption? It doesn't tell you what kind of encryption. So aircraft was then chose to test that. Nmap, just to see the ports, open, filter, close. In the next slide, I'm going to go over the findings. Open bus and Nessus, both vulnerability scanners. So was there any existing vulnerability in the device? How old is the vulnerability? What is the score of the vulnerability? So all of these things we wanted to know. And Sparta is getting popularity in the cyber world. What Sparta added into this research, it was showing a connection on the wire on the wire area of the network. It shows similarity of a chipset sitting in the VM in the terminal and to the AP. Findings. Just by footprinting, port scanning, we were able to see, or we were able to have the best guess of the operating system running on the device, the number of ports. Just to give you more details, there were 2 TCP ports, there was an FTP service open, there were 65,000 closed ports. You can see MAC addresses, source IPs, destination IPs. You could see protocols. And UDP ports, Wi-Fi technology, vulnerable OS operating system. And as you can see, like there is actually, the net BSD. It gives you the severity, 9.3 out of 10. So yeah, quite high. And the OS, the vulnerability existing there was actually 5 years old. Right now will be a different situation because we have given all these results to our sponsor. Now it's patch, but yet that's quite interesting. Now, moving on to the into the intrusive part, like we know now, we understand what is running. We haven't touched and tried to penetrate the security. We carried out 2 different attacks, the evil twin attack and the man in the middle attack. For the evil twin attack, we use an antenna with the Kali Linux operating system. So we mimic, or we pretended, we put the ROG AP and pretended to be the legitimate access point. And with a DOS, after launching a DOS attack to the device, we force the device to disconnect from the legitimate IP and then connect it to our ROG IP. Once having this connection up and running, we were making transactions, having all these transactions traffic going through our ROG IP, which is a success. Nice. So to standard 2.11, broken. However, what else can we do from there? Once you have this device connected to your ROG IP, you kind of owning the connection now. So we launch Metasploit and try to inject malicious packets to the POS terminal. Unfortunately, the POS refused to do attacks. But this is not where we stop. We took a Wi-Fi pineapple, and try again, but there was no difference in the results. For man in the middle attack, We have two sectors, and we mainly carry this attack on to compare a packet. So we capture packets from two different connections of the device. So one is from the VX680 to the legitimate IP, and the other one is from the legitimate IP to the internet. Um, from this test, we use EtherCap to sit in the middle and start watching the traffic. And I can tell you the time and date were key factors here, because you could see even a microsecond, it will make the difference in each packet. Um, Also, during this attack, we were able to see the receipts in plain text in the packet captures while having these connections and these attacks on. We made transactions using a magnetic stripe card, a chip card, and there was a huge difference there, which um, which it was cryptography. Additionally, these are services, physical ports existing in the device. So even though these are not cyber attacks, we wanted to see how these services and physical ports, could be used from the attacker's perspective. So an FTP service, it was tested to see what else can you install, and before we go further, for the FTP service, there is a pin which is in plain text. If you carefully look at the device, just by connecting through the FTP, you will see a pin. In our case, the pin was in plain text. And knowing this pin, it allowed us to have more visibility. So we were able to see the firmware, the directories, the groups existing there, some of the results right there on screen. Um, so yeah, the visibility of the device of the system increase. Um, for the micro SD card, this is a physical device, and the micro SD card, it's if you take the battery out and disconnect it, you can actually load any external. You can use it as a micro SD card. You can load your external files, auto run scripts, whatever you feel like, and load it there, insert it back into the device. Once you turn it on, it's going to ask you to check the file signatures. We couldn't bypass the file signatures and the file hashes, but there are other research and papers where they unpack the firmware, they modify the firmware, and then they reload it onto the device using external files. So in our case, we were able to put external files into the device, and nothing happened. It was still, even though the device rebooted, it was existing there. The malicious files were coexisting with legitimate files, not raising any alerts. So it was, yeah, quite interesting. There is also a USB port. This USB port, it was mostly to increase the visibility of the device. It has a mini HDMI at the end, so you could use it either to connect it to a POS software running in a computer, and you can increase your visibility and capability of the device. So now we're gonna compare. We run non-intrusive scans, intrusive scans. What do we see? So we know the programming language running on the POS VX680. It's POS XML, which is an XML. This language is used for developers to create new applications, to develop new features of the device, and this is the current language. The current firmware, the operating system, network information, features. You can also load new features to the device. You will, as you can see, through FTP, you were able to see the folder structure, the directory listing. The packet captures were showing receipts in plain text. Cryptography. I'm going to stop right here because while we were making transactions, even though we were able to see the receipts and we were able to see the traffic, The difference, the main difference that you will see, it's when you were making transactions using the magnetic stripe card and the chip card. So cryptography is the main difference here. Cryptography is only used for uh, credit cards using the chip technology, which is another layer of security. So if you ever, are presented with options whether to use a magnetic stripe card or a chip card, I will highly suggest it to use the chip card. I'm not saying this is 100% secure. Nothing is 100% secure these days, but it has another layer of security in it. Again, the pin of the device was in plain text. The encryption using the devices, and this was reconfirmed with the vendor. It's 3 DES, which is DES 3 times. The net BIOS, open ports, and open the doors for potential exploitation. Um, Also, we try to explore the device hardware itself. You can remove pieces, put it back, compile it together, but there is a anti-tampering on the device. So replacing the internal components of the device, you will have to bypass the anti-tampering protection. It's not. It is possible. We haven't explored that function yet. And also, again, having those physical ports and physical functionalities for the device open possibilities for you or for persons with have malicious intents to place external files onto the device and having them coexisting with the legitimate files. Now, we know the device, we know the network, we've gathered information, we know about the physical open ports, services, and how can we bypass them? I'll show you. So this is a demonstration of an attack, a side channel attack, which could bypass the PCI DSS requirements entirely, whilst still complying with them. So we're going to use here a fake terminal, and we're going to use on the attacker side, we're going to be using two people. So let's say, you're walking down the road, streets, and you see a shop next to the road. You want to buy some strawberries. So you will be handed over a device, POS device, to make a payment. What you don't know is that your credit card details are being stolen and then passed over onto a second attacker who is making a real transaction with a real amount. This second attacker is going to go and make the transaction. The transaction is going to get approved by the payment server, and then second attacker is going to get a receipt, which is accepted, which then second attacker is going to communicate to first attacker, hey, we're good to go. The PIN number is valid. The card number is valid. It's all good. We're charging $9 for a box of strawberries. On the customer side, you don't know, because you simply pay $9 for a customer. You were told that it was $9 that it was going to cost you, and you pay the $9. Nothing happened. No red flags. And again, our goal here is not to charge more to the customer, because that would be a red flag. It is only to gather the card details. That's the goal here. But how does this look in our two favorite imaginary people? Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob. So this is a cycle. You have Bob and Alice working together. Bob is, facing the customer information, handing over the fake terminal to the customer. Customer swipes the card and makes the payment. The information is grabbed, pass it on to Alice. Alice has a real POS with her. She makes the transaction using the credit card details, send it to the payment card. The payment card then sends back an approved receipt to her, and then she sends a signal to Bob, say, hey Bob, we're good to go. Next customer. And imagine having this multiple times. You will never know. I'm not here to charge you $80. I'm here to charge you $5. And I could just set my shop on the corner and start selling strawberries or veggies. You will never know. Uh, but from the attacker's perspective, once you have these credit card details, what you can do? I think the possibilities are endless here. But some of them, the most common, the ones that we see every day, you can sell this cardholders information in the dark web. Good market. You can start printing this information in physical cards and also resell them. Or you can do, what happened in New Zealand, taking the extra step and actually walk into ATMs and start withdrawing money. Um, but also, this is a little bit of a gray area because some of you might say, no, this only happens to bank cards. No, this could also happen to gift cards, to loyalty cards, and any card that uses the magnetic stripe technology. Um, so I can easily load my bank card details onto a gift card details. So uh, that's a bit of a gray area, but it's possible. I've done it. So yeah, it is very scary out there. All right, so we got to know the network, we got to know the device, we actually bypass these PCI DSS standards, we carry on an attack, we have the details, but from the defensive side now, changing your hats, how do you mitigate them? Well, first of all, if you do a simple Google search, you will find this POS terminal for sale. So it's available to anybody. You can grab your phone. We can do a simple Google on the BX680, and I think I did it yesterday. And they are 35 Australian dollars. You might have to invest a little bit more on the shipping because it's a long way, but for $35, you can have your own POS terminal, start modifying the hardware, updating the firmware, putting your own firmware, and running your own scam. Not that you should do it, but um, yeah. Also, so blocking these devices sales online is a way to go. I mean, I don't understand really why these devices are for sale. So blocking this would be one way. Also cross reference. So when transactions are made from company to company, they have the ability to cross reference the device IDs, the terminal IDs, and that way you can actually make sure that you're making a legitimate payment. Um, and again, keeping in mind that this can be extended into loyal cards and gift cards. Overall, this is my takeaway for you guys. Even though this attack is gonna be hard to mitigate, keep in mind that this will only happen to magnetic stripe cards, because the newer cards, the chip cards, or the other ones, NFC, use different technology. So again, if you ever are presented with options and one of them is using the magnetic strike cards, avoid that. Yeah, or think again, because yesterday when I was doing this presentation, somebody said, like, what if they block the functionality of NFC and chip cards, forcing you to use magnetic strike cards? So that's actually a nice experiment, which we didn't do it, but it can be possible. Anybody, the attacker's imagination can go really far away. So even if the device is newer, nowadays they can block those functionalities and force you to use a magnetic stripe. Um, So future developments on this case, during the research, unfortunately, we also found that the transaction details were sitting in the RAM of the POS device, even though it's a fraction of a second and it's really hard for an attacker to carry out an attack on this. It is possible. It is possible, knowing that those transaction details are sitting and living in the RAM, open or possibilities for RAM scraping attacks. Also, if you do a simple search on POS malwares, you will find a list of them. So there's people, black hats, white hats that have actually written malwares only dedicated for POS. In my experience, while working on this research, I wanted, there was a presentation in Black Hat about Jack POS, and I wanted to see how that works. And I was able to get a copy of it just by tweeting or no X, the author of the attack. Um, Again, chip cards are newer, but NFC contactless, always making sure who you're dealing with, any red flag when you're making a transaction, yeah, it's do not use it. And remember, there is also a possibility for you to load external scripts onto the device and make them coexisting or interacting with a legitimate operating system. These are some of the highlights of this paper. Hopefully I give you useful information to make you want to learn more. There is actually the RAM scraping is there is another group that is currently developing on this, and if you want to know a bit more, this paper and more details is actually published by the IEEE. You can scan this with your phones and yeah, have a look on it. Thank you.
Talk. All right, thank you for that. This is a little gift from B-Side Sear, and just now we can take some questions.
Did you work out why there was an FTP server on it? Did you work out why there was an FTP server on it?
Yes. So the FTP server was to update the firmware of the device. Oh, sorry. As FTP server?
The FTP server.
Yeah. So it was used to
update the firmware. Yes. So I guess the firmware was signed, I hope.
Yes. But also you can develop your own firmware. You don't have to use the firmware given by Verifone or by any of those companies. You can develop your own firmware. You can download it from external sources and load it onto your device.
Okay.
Just going to ask some technical questions now because I'm interested. You mentioned that the encryption pin into the device is triple DES. So that's encryption in transit, right? Not at rest? Okay, so you mentioned the pin. You meant talk about the pin of the device or the pin of the user putting in their card?
The pin of the device.
Pin of the device. So accessing the device for higher functions. That's
Correct.
what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
The other thing was about the encryption of magnetic stripes. Now, obviously, it's an old technology, and you're saying it's not encrypted in transit.
It is encrypted in transit.
But it's an older one, or?
But it's an old one. You can, but it's an old one. So it is encrypted in transit. We weren't able to see the transaction details when we were capturing the packets.
Mm-hmm.
So it is encrypted. But again, these details that are being in transit are existing in your car. So if you swap the stripe magnetic card with a reader, you are able to see the car details, the expiration name, your name, and all of those details. That's why they sit in there. They sit in your car. So if those cars are lost or misplaced, you should immediately block it, because somebody can come, read the information hosting in those cards and make a new car out of it. It's very easy, to be honest. I've cloned a few cars myself. So that's a very unfortunate.
Okay, so you talk about more about the magnetic stripes that are obviously can be done with a really old way with a cassette deck or something like that to be included versus the soft that it's on chips.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, all right, no, that's cool.
Even though magnetic stripes, he's saying it's quite old. Yes, it is old, but it's still relevant. If you walk around, people are still using those to pay petrol. The companies are loading those gift cards and giving to employees to pay petrol. I don't know if we use Prezi cards in here. So Prezi cards are giving their gift cards, given to employees to go to Westfield Mall to spend some money. How do you pay? They are not chip cards; they are magnetic strike cards. So it is still relevant, and they are loaded with money. So again, you lose it, walk around, pick it up, go home, make a copy of it, throw it, and I'm good to go.
Low security. Awesome. That's very informative. Anyone else? Last chance to ask a question. Oh, okay, that's good. Here we go.
Very interesting talk. And one thing you said, you clone a lot of your card. I'm kind of curious, like what type of methodology you actually cloning? Because I know there's a lot of emulator out there, like Flipper Zero and stuff. But Flipper, they have a negative point is you can actually clone card from bank because they have like encryption and stuff that you can't really decrypt it using Flipper. So I'm kind of curious of the approach you use to clone the card.
Wow. So so Flipper is mainly focused on NFC, so contactless. So it's a whole new world from here. Magnetic stripes. They use. Yes, I did clone some cards, and they were bank cards. And so what these are. This is a machine that is basically just reading and writing on magnetic stripe. So you have a little software running on one machine. You connect your magnetic stripe reader and writer to that machine and swap it. You will get all the details of the card on the software, and then it will ask you, do you want to write this or do you want to save them? Go write, and then you use another magnetic stripe card. It doesn't matter if it's blank, new, it doesn't matter. You can use a gift card that uses magnetic stripe, just swipe it again, and basically you have a duplication of any card, of the card that you are making a duplicate of.
Okay, so you definitely need to like close contact with the machine to read it rather than just do like Flipper to thick. Then
Yes. It's just simple. It's just through cable. But yeah, Flipper. It's on the NFC, on the contactless. I know that now it's making a copy of those NFC or other cards like bank cards. It's not possible. Yeah, but there is a stand here who's selling Flipper. Yeah, so he was telling me that you can also reload the firmware, unpack and repack. Momentum is the one that extreme developers are working on. So yeah, that's a new technology they're doing.
thank you.
Ours.
Just quickly on that, like it's obviously a common thing. People with a fear of the Flipper Zero and copying cards. Just to reiterate that the system on a chip on your magnetic cards is encryption at time, right? So it can't be replicated. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
At the moment, anyway, it's not something that people can go and just copy your card.
No, not for the bank card. Not for the bank cards. No.
Just to debunk that FUD myth,
Yes,
which you see online.
Don't do it.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last questions? No? Last one of the day? That's it. All right, wrap it up. Thank you very much. It's very awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't turn it on. So that's the last one of the day, and I think we've got a networking event at 5 o'clock upstairs. So you can probably take a break and walk around in that meantime, and we'll catch you afterwards. Thank you.